How can a golfer win majors, shatter records, and still be overlooked? From icons forever stuck at number 2 to rising stars blocked by bad timing, this countdown uncovers 15 pros who deserved the ultimate crown. And trust me, the number 1 pick was a straight robbery. Number 15, Phil Mickelson, forever second best. Phil Mickelson's resume reads like royalty. 6 major championships, 45 PGA Tour victories, and over 2 decades as one of golf's brightest stars. By any standard, that should be enough to crown a player world number 1, but Phil's career lived in the long, unrelenting shadow of Tiger Woods. For 270 weeks, over 5 years, Mickelson sat at number 2 in the world, the longest any golfer has ever stayed in second place. Think about that. Week after week, month after month, he was tantalizingly close to the summit, but Tiger's dominance was immovable. Even at Phil's peaks, the numbers tell the story. After his second Masters win in 2010, he was just half a point away from finally grabbing the top spot. Half a point. And still, Tiger stayed ahead. Imagine being one of the greatest players to ever grip a club, and yet every triumph feels like it comes with an asterisk. Phil gave us drama, artistry, unforgettable short game magic, but in the record books, his name will forever sit just beneath. One of golf's most decorated legends, and never number 1. And if you think that's cruel, wait until you hear about a player who actually won majors in 3 different decades and still flew under the radar. Number 14, Anna Nordqvist. 3 decades of majors, still undervalued. Anna Nordqvist isn't just consistent, she's historic. She won majors in 3 different decades: 2009, 2017, 2021. That's longevity few golfers can even dream of. Most players are lucky to catch lightning once. Anna kept striking again and again across generations of competition, and yet her highest world ranking? 4th. Not 1st, not 2nd, not even 3rd. 4th. For someone with her resume, that feels almost criminal. Part of it comes down to style. Anna never chased the spotlight. No fiery meltdowns, no headline-grabbing antics. She was calm, deliberate, a Swedish powerhouse who let her game speak. But in a sport that loves larger-than-life personalities, her quiet dominance made her easy to overlook. Imagine it, 3 majors, 9 LPGA victories, and still being treated like a supporting act in your own era. Her story proves that sometimes greatness hides in plain sight. 3 trophies that should have made her a household name, but didn't. And if you think being too quiet is tragic, wait until you see what happens when a player loses it all to the dreaded Yips and then fights his way back into history. Number 13, Henrik Stenson, the duel of a lifetime. Henrik Stenson's career has everything you'd want in a golfing epic: collapse, redemption, and one of the greatest showdowns ever witnessed. Just a few years before his peak, he was lost in the wilderness. The dreaded driver Yips had him spraying shots so badly he couldn't even win at his own club. From top 10 contender to rock bottom, it looked like the end. But Stenson clawed his way back. By 2014, he reached a career high of number 2 in the world, and then came Royal Troon 2016, a stage built for legends. Stenson went toe-to-toe with Phil Mickelson in a final round that people still whisper about. Phil fired a bogey-free 65, normally good enough to secure immortality. Stenson answered with a record-setting 63, 20 under par, ice-cold precision under the fiercest pressure imaginable. It was perfection, the kind of round that should guarantee you the title of best in the world. And yet, even after this masterpiece, Henrik Stenson never reached number 1. Sometimes, perfection still isn't enough. He proved you can beat the odds, silence the doubters, and still come up short of the crown. But if you think that's cruel, wait until you see the heartbreak of losing world number 1 to a missed 2-foot putt. Number 12, Lexi Thompson, inches away. Lexi Thompson was supposed to be America's golf prodigy. At just 12 years old, she qualified for the US Women's Open, and the hype machine never stopped rolling. Long off the tee, fearless under pressure, she carried a swagger that made people believe she was destined for number 1. But destiny has a cruel sense of humor. For all her raw power, Lexi's career has been marked by inconsistency. Brilliant one week, frustrating the next, and in 2017, the defining moment came down to a single putt. The CME Group Tour Championship. Final hole. Lexi had a 2-foot putt, 2 feet, to secure the win, and with it, the world number 1 ranking. She missed. The crowd gasped. She went to a playoff, and lost. Just like that, her shot at the top vanished. Imagine carrying the weight of expectation since childhood, only to have the dream slip away by the smallest of margins. That's Lexi's story in a nutshell. Explosive talent, unforgettable highs, but haunted by the near misses. The difference between greatness and heartbreak? Just 2 inches. And if that makes your stomach turn, wait until you see how one man turned an entire nation's hope into history, only to fall short of the crown himself. Number 11, Hideki Matsuyama, A Nation's Pressure. April 2021, Augusta National, Hideki. Matsuyama stood over his final putt at the Masters with the weight of an entire nation pressing down on his shoulders. Japan had never produced a male major champion. Billions watched, holding their breath, and when that last putt dropped, history exploded. Matsuyama had done it. The image of him bowing with the green jacket became an instant cultural milestone. Back home, newspapers called it a new era. Young kids in Tokyo and Osaka picked up clubs because of him. One man had changed the course of Japanese golf forever. And yet, despite all that, Hideki Matsuyama never reached number 1 in the world. His highest peak, number 2, that's it, 1 spot shy. A golfer with an iron game so precise it looked machine-made. A player who spent years inside the top 10, winning across the globe, carrying expectations that would crush most careers. And still, the crown never came. One win changed a nation, but not the rankings. Matsuyama became a legend for millions, yet in golf's official record, he'll always be almost. But if you think carrying a country's weight was brutal, wait until you hear about the man who lost everything, even the ability to walk, before staging one of golf's greatest comebacks. Number 10, Jose Maria Olazabal, Pain and Comeback. Jose Maria Olazabal was poetry in motion, a short game magician, a 2-time Masters champion, and one of Spain's finest. But just when his career looked unstoppable, his body betrayed him. In the mid-1990s, severe rheumatoid arthritis crept into his feet. At first, it was nagging pain. Then it was agony. Soon, walking became nearly impossible. Imagine that. One of the smoothest players in golf reduced to crutches, doubting if he'd ever swing a club again. In 1996, Olazabal missed the entire season. Watching majors from home, he admitted he thought his career was finished. But fate wasn't done with him. Through relentless rehab and treatment, Olazabal clawed his way back. In 1997, just his 3rd tournament after returning, he won, and 2 years later, he conquered Augusta again, slipping into his 2nd green jacket, a comeback for the ages. Yet, despite his brilliance and resilience, Olazabal never reached the world number 1 ranking. His career high stopped short, leaving him as one of the game's great what-ifs. He lost the ability to walk, then came back to win Augusta. And if that sounds unbelievable, wait until you meet a golfer whose heartbreak came from being second over and over again for 20 long years. Number 9, Sergio Garcia, 20 years of waiting. From the moment Sergio Garcia burst onto the scene as a fiery teenager, fans believed they were watching golf's next chosen one. His passion, his flair, his fearless shot making, this was supposed to be the man who would rival Tiger Woods. At 19, he was already hitting miracle shots from behind trees that had crowds roaring. But hype can turn into a heavy burden. For years, Garcia kept knocking on the door of greatness, only to find it slammed shut. He played in 74 majors before finally winning one. 74. Along the way, he finished second 4 times, placed in the top 5 a dozen times, and spent 18 weeks at number 2 in the world rankings, but never number 1. And the longer it went on, the louder the doubts became. What's wrong with Sergio became the question that followed him everywhere. Even Garcia himself admitted at one point, maybe I'm just not good enough. Finally, in 2017, at age 37, Sergio broke through at the Masters. 2 decades of pain erased with 1 green jacket. But despite that triumph, the number 1 ranking always remained out of reach. For 2 decades, the question was always the same. What's wrong with Sergio? And if you think that wait was agonizing, imagine surviving a literal lightning strike and still not getting the crown. Number 8, Retief Goosen, struck by lightning. Retief. Goosen's story begins with an actual lightning bolt. At just 15 years old, he was struck on the golf course, knocked unconscious, his clothes burned, his heart stopped. Doctors weren't sure he'd survive, let alone walk again. But weeks later, unbelievably, Goosen was swinging a club. That resilience carried into his career. Calm, unshakable, nicknamed the Iceman, he became one of golf's most feared competitors. Twice he conquered the US Open, outlasting the toughest courses under the harshest pressure. And his putter, lethal, smooth, stone cold, the best of his era, even against Tiger Woods at his peak. When Goosen stood over a putt, you almost assumed it would drop, yet somehow the rankings never gave him the respect he earned. His highest climb, just number 3 in the world, never number 1, never the crown. He beat death, he beat the field, but never the rankings. Goosen's career is a reminder that golf's hierarchy doesn't always reward grit, miracles, or nerves of steel. And if surviving a lightning strike wasn't wild enough, wait until you hear about the man with one of the sweetest swings in golf history, whose timing doomed him to spend his career in someone else's shadow. Number 7. Davis Love III, the sweetest swing that timing crushed. Few swings in golf history have been described as perfect. Davis Love III had one of them. Effortless, fluid, the kind of motion that coaches still use as a teaching model. And it wasn't just pretty, it was effective. Love racked up 21 PGA Tour wins, including the 1997 PGA Championship, and held his place in the world's top 10 for an astonishing 466 weeks. By any measure, that resume screams number 1, but there was just one problem. His prime overlapped with Tiger Woods. In 1998, Love climbed all the way to number 2, breathing down Tiger's neck. For weeks, he was less than a single point away from the crown. Any other era, that surge would have carried him to the summit. But in the late 90s and early 2000s, the top spot wasn't up for grabs. Tiger owned it. Imagine knowing you were playing the best golf of your life, only to run headfirst into the most dominant force the sport has ever seen. In any other era, Davis Love III would have been celebrated as a number 1 legend. Instead, he lived in Tiger's shadow. And if that sounds cruel, the next golfer's fate was sealed not by timing, but by her own body breaking down at the worst possible moment. Number 6. Paula Creamer, the Pink Panther Era. In the mid-2000s, you couldn't miss Paula Creamer. Dressed head to toe in pink, right down to her golf balls, she wasn't just a player, she was a brand. Fans called her the Pink Panther, and America embraced her as the face of women's golf. And the hype wasn't empty. Creamer won 10 LPGA events, highlighted by her unforgettable US Women's Open victory in 2010. That triumph was even more remarkable, considering she had just come back from thumb surgery. At her best, she seemed unstoppable, poised, polished, and fearless under pressure. But golf can be merciless. Wrist injuries derailed her momentum, keeping her sidelined for months. And just as she fought to return, the women's game exploded globally. Suddenly, stars from South Korea, Thailand, and beyond were flooding the leaderboards. The competition grew deeper, tougher, relentless. Timing is everything, and Paula's couldn't have been worse. She peaked just before the international surge that reshaped women's golf forever, from potential world number 1 to a cautionary tale of what ifs. Her career became defined not by her victories, but by what slipped away. She had the talent, she had the charisma, but she never had the timing. And if Paula's story feels tragic, the next one shows what happens when dominance in Europe still isn't enough to earn respect across the pond. Number 5. Collin Montgomery, Europe's king, America's ghost. In Europe, Collin Montgomery was untouchable. From 1993 to 1999, he won the European Tour's Order of Merit 7 years in a row. 7. That kind of dominance hasn't been matched before or since. With 31 European Tour victories and nearly 400 weeks inside the world's top 10, Monty was nothing short of royalty across the Atlantic. But in America, his story was very different. Despite all that consistency, Montgomery never won a single major championship. Time after time, he got close. Second at the 1994 US Open, heartbreak again at the 1995 PGA Championship, and the 2006 US Open where he had the trophy within reach, until it slipped away, and that was Monty's cruel fate. At his peak, he climbed to number 2 in the world, but the top spot always stayed out of reach. For European fans, he was a legend. For For American crowds, he was the player who couldn't get it done on the biggest stage. In Europe, a god. In America, overlooked. Montgomery proved dominance in one arena doesn't always translate worldwide. And if his story stings, wait until you hear about the quiet assassin whose putter was so magical, even Tiger couldn't outshine him completely. Number 4, Steve Stricker, the quiet assassin. Steve Stricker never needed fireworks, no fist pumps, no swagger, no wild celebrations. He simply stepped onto the green, lined up his putt, and rolled it in with surgical precision, again and again. His putter was a magic wand, turning tight battles into quiet victories. Stricker's resume proves it. 12 PGA Tour wins. Over 250 weeks inside the world's top 10, and stretches where he was literally gaining more than a stroke per round with the flat stick alone. In 2009, at age 42, most golfers are winding down. Stricker, he won 3 times that year and climbed all the way to number 2 in the world. But timing is everything. Stricker's prime ran headfirst into Tiger Woods' era of dominance. Even at his best, even with the steadiest hands on tour, the crown was never within his grasp. He peaked at number 2, close enough to see the throne, but never close enough to sit on it. No drama, no headlines, just one of the best putters to ever live. Stricker's quiet brilliance reminds us that greatness isn't always loud, but our next golfer, his swing looked like chaos itself, and yet it almost carried him to the very top. Number 3, Jim Furyk, golf's eternal bridesmaid. If golf were judged on textbook swings, Jim Furyk wouldn't have made it past the practice range. His motion was awkward, looping, almost ugly, famously described as an octopus falling out of a tree. But results? They spoke louder than form. Furyk won 17 PGA Tour titles, including the 2003 US Open, proving substance beats style. More than that, he was the definition of consistency. Furyk spent 360 weeks in the top 10 and 39 weeks ranked number 2 in the world. 39 weeks. That's longer than many players spend inside the top 100. He was steady, relentless, a grinder who wore down leaderboards year after year. And yet, like so many of his generation, he had the misfortune of peaking during Tiger Woods' reign. Furyk's best season, 2006, saw him post scoring averages that would have earned number 1 in any other era. Instead, Tiger's dominance pushed him aside. Furyk's brilliance was real, but the spotlight never quite landed on him. Consistency should have crowned him king, but it never did. Furyk's story proves that sometimes even perfection isn't enough when history's greatest player is in your way. And if his near misses sound tough, the next golfer's shot at number 1 ended not with disappointment, but with tragedy. Number 2, Payne Stewart, a legacy cut short. You couldn't miss Payne Stewart on the course. The knickers, the flat cap, the old school flair, he looked like a throwback to another era, but behind the style was serious substance. 3 major championships, including 2 US Opens, and in 1999, he was playing the best golf of his life. That year's US Open at Pinehurst told the story. Stewart drained a 15-foot par putt on the 72nd hole to edge out Phil Mickelson by 1. The fist pump, the roar, it was instantly iconic, a moment etched in golf history. At 42, Stewart wasn't winding down, he was peaking. Many believed he was on the verge of finally breaking into the number 1 spot. And then, just months later, tragedy. A plane crash ended his life and career in an instant. Golf lost not only a champion, but one of its most colorful, respected figures. His rankings froze forever at what might have been, leaving fans to wonder how far he could have climbed. Payne Stewart is the one player who might have broken through, had fate not intervened. And as shocking as that is, our number 1 is even harder to believe. A living legend with 6 majors who never touched the top ranking. Number 1, Collin Morikawa, the modern underdog. Collin Morikawa wasted no time announcing himself. In just his second major start, he captured the PGA Championship. A year later, he added the Open Championship, becoming the first player ever to win 2 different majors in his debut appearances. 2 majors before age 25, numbers that scream future world number 1. And his weapon, that iron game. Morikawa's ball striking is so precise it looks computer generated. He threads fairways, pins approach shots, and makes the impossible look routine. Ask pros and analysts. They'll tell you he's one of the purest strikers the game has ever seen. But timing hasn't been kind. Just as he was poised to break through, Jon Rahm surged to dominance. Then Scottie Scheffler turned into a machine, piling up wins and holding on to the #1 ranking like a vice grip. Morikawa, despite brilliance, found himself blocked, always one step behind. So here we are, a 2-time major champion, a Ryder Cup star, a player who's already carved his place in history, and still never a single week as world #1. The overlooked star of today, who might still rewrite the future. Because if anyone on this list still has time to grab the crown, it's Collin Morikawa. Thanks for sticking with us all the way to #1. It means you're just as passionate about golf's overlooked legends as we are. Now we want to hear from you. Which golfer do you think was snubbed the hardest and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.